I love the sport. But I think in terms of the future, I think y'all's prediction of it being a poor man's sport is right on, because I think when it comes to people, whether it's because athletically they can play something else, or mentally, academically, they can make more choices. I think it just, you're wondering, is this what you want to set your child up when you're talking 90%, 70%, or even 40% might end up with this brain disease? It's kind of, as a parent, knowing that you're the one who put them down that path, even if they really loved it, to know that you set your child up for that.
Yeah.
It's hard to live with. So I think it's bad in terms of, I think it's going to be different. I don't think it's going to really impact football that much, though, honestly. Even though we're going to lose some athletes, I still suspect the quality of football will remain consistent, and as fans, we still going to eat it up. We still going to watch.
Cool. All right. So Thomas, you like me, you have a son who's getting closer to that age where it's trying to make that decision. And I know he's prepping for football this year. What are your thoughts on the study itself and the future of the game, and your thoughts for your son?
I'm definitely siding with you guys right now. I really didn't want my son to play this year because of, I guess, I read the article you had, and that I saw that 90%, and that's an alarming rate.
Yeah.
So at that point, man, I was totally against it, but he begged and begged, and he's been begging for the last 2 years, and my wife was like, well, let him try it out and things like that. But I'm torn. I don't want him to. However, I don't want to be the dad that I guess doesn't let him, I guess give him exposure. But I'm looking at it as, there's a million other things he could be, than other than a pro, football player. So that's how I'm looking at it. I'm in the business of protecting his brain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of my thought, and that's still kind of my thought. Is now I think I've kind of evolved to that. Early, my kids started playing flag football when they were, my youngest one was 4.
Okay.
Playing flag. But I was always hesitant to get them involved into full contact, for that reason. But early on, I got them involved in flag because I had a lot of great experiences growing up playing. I started playing football when I was 7. So, organized. I've always played in the backyard full tackle, with a bunch of older kids since I was 4 or 5 years old.
Exactly.
But, so those things, like, kind of living through my memories, like, I can't wait to get my sons involved in football. And I kind of evolved to the point now where I'm like, especially with my oldest one being he's so, he kind of grown to the point where he likes sports. But early on, he wanted nothing to do with a ball. He's such an academic kid, and he loves reading. So I've kind of evolved to the point where I gotta look out for his best interest as well, to where I'm not pushing them. And like you said, Keyonne, I'm get them involved in martial arts, things of that nature. But then, but on the flip side, there are a lot of life lessons that I learned playing team sports. And football, basketball being, the most prominent ones for me. Is there so many life lessons that I learned playing team sports that I want them to get those lessons, and I'm sure there's other ways that they can get those, without assuming the risks of stepping onto a football field. And now they're starting to ask, Daddy, are we going to play football this year? We're going to play football. I want to play with pads on. And those are huge questions that you have to ask yourself as a parent. Because it used to be that, the cliche was, dad always had to talk mom into letting the boys play football. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah.
And as fathers, we we kind of, and not just head injuries, like, over years of playing, and not just football, but playing basketball for years on concrete. My knees pay for it, my back pay for it. So those are things like Al said, do you want to risk putting your body through that when the chances are the long-term benefits of it may not be worth it?
And let me say, Pooh mentioned in terms of, and y'all mentioned it too, in terms of the kids asking, that peer pressure is real.
Yeah.
You have, as a parent, and we're talking about football, but this could be anything. But when you're making a decision, what you think are the best interests of your kids, something like football, when, half of the boys, probably in their classes playing and they talking about stories of practice and games, and you sitting there and you like,
quiet.
Dad, why you not playing? My dad won't let me play. You know what I mean? So it's like you recognize what that is, especially as a little boy, because we were all little boys.
Yeah.
And so I gave in. My son had begged for years, and so when he finally got to be 9, where we were kind of the cutoff, and we was like, all right, let's wait till he get 9. We gave in. Was like, let's find him a league. And the other thing that's real is not only this peer pressure, but this sense of sports as a lottery. Parents looking at this is their way to come up. And that's one thing that's real.
Yeah.
It's sad, but that's real. The other thing that's real is this tradition and culture of football in many communities. And even at the little children's level, you got homecomings, you got parks that have been in existence 67 years, where their granddaddy played and got a championship on this field. So there's a lot of that's going to keep feeding this pipeline of football into,
And another thing, like Al, you mentioned, like your son's not like he's not an imposing figure, but on the flip side of that, and that's something I dealt with when I was younger, from my perspective and from kids around me, and being that both of my sons are big kids, that when you're a bigger kid, you get picked on, when you're a big kid, but when you're a big kid playing football, that narrative changes.
Right.
And so now you're like, oh, you're not just big, like you big for a reason. Oh, you're a football player. So that kind of plays into kids, especially little boys wanting to be football players. And because I see, I was coming home the other day from my son's birthday. We were coming back from Carowinds, and the neighbor was out, and he was like, "Oh, it's his birthday." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "How old is he?" He's like, "Oh man, you got a football player right there." So that's the first thing we think about.
Exactly.
And especially from older generations, is we hear it all the time, is the wussification of America. We're gonna stop our boys from playing football and all that. And a little bit of that still lives in me, and I'm sure in most men, is you want your boys, to do the things we did traditionally as boys.
So to go with that, you said you played football in the yard when you was like 4. I can remember we used to play a game called, I don't know if you've played in Newberry, Kill the Man with the Ball.
Yeah.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And that's just like, I mean, it was no pads.
Dudes jumping on your back, choking you.
I was say, we separated somebody's shoulder like that. Separated shoulder and his clavicle by piling on. And all you heard was, ouch.
Yeah, exactly. And usually there was no ball. Like, we would find anything, like a paper cup, a roll of aluminum foil, like anything that could represent the ball, as long as we had a dude to jump on. And, a bunch of dudes to jump on. Yeah, so whether you call it kill the man with the ball, pick up tackle, pick up stick, like everybody, and it's funny because there's a thread going through Facebook that, people will say, hey, what did they call this game where you were from? And all they show was a picture of a bunch of boys piled up on one kid, and everybody knew immediately what it was, but like people from different areas of the country all had a different name for it. So it was like really like 30 different names for that one sport, because that's what we did. Everybody did it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's gonna take generations for one, not only for us to be educated, but to be receptive to the education, especially as fathers who are looking out for the better interest of our kids.
Yes, yeah, and I'm not gonna stop my son from playing kill the man with the ball if you want to,
Yeah,
I'm gonna let because I don't want to get his clavicle separated, of course, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
but it's like there were no adults around. It was just guys like we ran and hit, and it was just crazy. But I think like I'm okay, and my friends are okay, and I don't know, man. It's a tough question because it's like. We got all this information now, but it's like I feel like I didn't die, or I wasn't like irreparably,
exactly.
But I wonder, like, do you think there'll ever? How much do you think equipment safety will evolve? Like, do you think that we will ever get to a point where they are improving helmets, or you know what I mean? Like that might change the conversation as well, as to where. Because I think the tackling and how they're trying to change how the players, actually hit each other in terms of eliminating some of the kickoffs and stuff like that. I think that's going to help. Yeah. But I also wonder if we might see some improvements in player equipment that might make a difference in this game as well.
Yeah, we're going to have to. Well, I know they've introduced a new helmet to the NFL this year and on college level, but I think it's going to have to continue to evolve. But I don't know if it'll ever get to the point where... Like it'll totally like eliminate the threat. Yeah. If we was talking about the movie Concussion Bennett Omalu, he said his human brain is not designed to play football.
Yeah. That's it, man.
We weren't designed that way.
And you think about all the rule changes they can make. The only rule change you can do that could take this out the game will be to pretty much eliminate the game. Think about offensive line and defensive line. Yeah. What's gonna be your rule change? You feel me? Like that is the game, and that's where most of this stuff is happening.
Yeah, and
these guys are knocking their heads into each other.
And that's what they say is you can't legislate violence out of football. It's never gonna happen. And like. I don't know. It's just what I mean. And last thing I'll say on this is, especially when me and my wife get to arguing, and I say to her all the time, is, "Geez, I can tell you didn't play team sports," because there's an aspect of compromise and accountability and teamwork that is instilled in you, and regardless of what sport you play, when you've grown up playing team sports, and it becomes innate in a sense. And so with I tell my wife, I can tell you never played team sports because there's generally this, it's foreign to her at times, like the principles of even having an argument or having to take one for the benefit of the team. And so those are things that she didn't grow up with, and I say that to a lot of people. So those are things that I don't want my son to miss out on.
There's other sports, bro. There's basketball,
exactly.
Baseball, and one of the things I think about as you talk about that, another way of looking at this is, so with my son, I think we missed the sport. He might have had the best opportunity to be playing at a high level, which was soccer. So while he wasn't playing football early on, he was playing soccer, and that was the sport he gave up to take and play football in the fall. And looking back in terms of his physique as well as his success, like as a parent, I wish I had been stronger and said, look forward and been like, yo, real talk, you don't have no real future in football. Yeah, it'd be nice for you to be out there playing, because I never played organized football. So I think that was part of it too. I played football since I was a kid in the park and on the street, but I never played with pads on. So I think when I look at my son, that has something to do with it. But long term, I wish I had kept him in soccer, because he would have learned everything that he would have learned in football in soccer too.
That's true. And it's funny you mention that, because there are studies that show that on the high school level, soccer players suffer concussions at a higher rate than football players.
Oh, damn.
The ball hitting them,
Damned if I do, damn.
But see, I'm on a whole other place with my son.
With cheerleading, a coach that's close second. How weird is that?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Chili.
They do get flipped and dropped a lot.
So about to say, my son is 2 and he looks 5, and it's just me saying. He stands next to 5-year-olds, and people think he's, so he's gonna be a big kid. And all that being said, I'm really not looking for sports to be his career. Like I want him to get those lessons, and I want him to play. Like Jay, what you're saying is perfect about